think it's gonna be too much of a reveal. If I move my arm one way,
But you have the plant is in front of you, so it's not really
I think I'll be
doing
okay.
It's
All
not
right.
doing.
Okay.
Uh, Rozier, you see her titties from the middle of the.
Do you see the bosoms? Cause like if I
From
go like
over
this,
here, you can see, but if
Yeah,
over
straight on
there,
where the
okay.
cameras is. It don't look like.
I just no
Oh,
no
you
no.
want to see? Yeah, she. Oh, she
Oh
want a
okay.
peekaboo.
Well, I guess
Just take it off.
take it off.
Yeah, take the whole thing off. We
No,
about to
I
be.
can't do that. We'll get all the ratings.
It's about to be.
Or she's the number one or seven number four.
What up, family? My name is Rose, and this is another episode of Why Not Us, the podcast. And we have a pretty good one for y'all this episode. Listen, we all want to make the necessary adjustments for the people that we love, right? The people that we care for, the people that we want to cater to. One of the things that I realize is that it's good to have a healthy level of flexibility. But when we don't know ourselves or we're not monitoring how much we have adjusted from our core selves, flexibility can become quite unhealthy. So I had the opportunity to talk to the homies this episode about that very topic. So let's get into it. And please, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and share this with your homies. And thank you for the ongoing support as we continue to grow this thing. I want y'all to know that that means a lot. All right, cuzzo, enjoy the show.
I feel like love, and maybe I don't agree, but I feel like love takes you to a point, even relationships takes you to a point to where you're always giving a little bit more than you really want to, or you're adjusting or shifting or that whole thing. And for me, as a just the core of who I am is this is me, that's you. We're gonna figure out how it gels together, and I'm gonna allow you to be you. But you gotta allow me to be me, and we're gonna figure out if it works together versus going into it knowing you have to compromise, knowing you have to shift, knowing you have to adjust. And I think when you really care about somebody, you do it automatically. It's not like it's necessarily a chore, but the way my mental works is I'm adjusting who I actually am as a person. And in the back of my mind, it's always like, I'll give in a little bit because I know I have to, because we're in this great relationship and the pros outweigh the cons. And I know ideally we all want love and want to be in something serious and thriving and growing. But realistically, in my head, the best love stories are the friendships. So I fall in love during the friendship, and when that starts to shift is usually when I have an issue in a
That's where you
relationship.
become uncomfortable.
Yeah. When
Wow.
that
So-
shifts, when the friendship of it shifts, or like these little trivial things that we go through in a relationship, when we can't like work through it as a friend, like if you were my friend, you wouldn't even be that mad about that. You'd be like, get out my damn face, and we're not about to do this. We're not about to argue about that. That's dumb.
Is it the same
So-
for you?
So it's actually both of what they said, because for me, in my big grown age of 40, like I've only had one for real adult relationship, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
So I've been single for 10 years. So now I'm better as a person because I'm putting myself first.
Yeah.
Right.
But I feel like that's also going to hurt me when
Yeah.
it comes to getting in a relationship, because I've been single for 10 years and I put so much of myself into that one relationship that I had. So I was a people pleaser. Like I was like, I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. All right, I'm my bad. I'm the one.
You don't
I
want to
was
shake the table.
Yeah,
Right.
But I was also 29, 30 at that time. Now I'm like, nah, I'm not doing. One thing about me at Ginger, I always said boundaries. Like now, like if you make me mad, if anything, it's done. Like,
Right.
and that's why I think I have been single for 10 years, because I'm not doing it. So I don't know if I've gotten better on the aspect of allowing that new love into my heart because of that old relationship in 2010,
That
2011.
you hold on to, right?
But I definitely, I feel like, because both of you said something to the effect that automatically triggered not necessarily going to the root of those things that happen in those relationships. Yes, you took the route of focusing on developing yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't think that that is the reason why, you know what I'm saying, you're not in a relationship, because you work to establish, you now know what you want, you know what is something you won't tolerate. It's, you know what I mean, you have that understanding, and you can have boundaries, yes, but it does take work. It takes work to, it's not even really, I try not to look at it as a compromise, but you are incorporating another person within, you know, your lifestyle. So you have to go in and understanding this person is not going to think like how I think. They're not going to respond to things in the same way that they're not me.
Right.
They're going to do, but you have to talk and have those conversations to figure out, okay, well, and it's not to say that you're going to have the conversation, you cover all bases, but I think when situations come about and there is a disagreement or there's different views, then you have that conversation
Right.
to let me understand your side of it. You understand mine. Can we agree? Cool. Do we not? Well, that's just something that we'll agree to disagree, and we'll go a different route or whatever. But it's like, did you really dig deep into that? Have you dealt with the core of
The
you know what I mean?
issues, like
Yeah, the actual issue that
Did you
made
do the
He
work?
was a
Exactly.
cheater and I was an acceptor. So it was
I
like,
got
I'm
you.
sorry.
I got you.
Okay, we're going to fix
Right.
it, make it
I see.
work.
I
And
see.
I mean, we was together 5.5 years.
Okay.
So that was a long time to deal with the same thing
Yes. I
over
got
and
you.
over. And now, as an adult, I'm like, you.
one and done.
yeah, like,
One and done.
dealing with the fact
That's
that
me.
you
You
said
sound like a lie. I'm
Yes.
like,
yeah.
Right. I don't know.
There's
I don't
like
know.
certain
Block.
mental issues that happen in
trigger.
relationships that
Yeah.
like create boundaries that are so thick that it's
Yeah.
like you know for a fact that after you've done it for such a long time,
Right.
you know for a fact that this is one of the things I can't.
Deal breaker.
Yeah.
Absolute
Well, that's
deal
what I'm saying.
breaker.
But why
can't.
did you deal with it? You know what I'm saying? Like really understanding why, beyond the surface of, like you said, you didn't want anybody to like walk away. You wanted to try to hold on to what you had, if I heard you correctly. So why was that the case? It's like, what is triggering that? You know what I mean? Like, why are you accepting that type of behavior? That's what I would like to know.
I literally just had this conversation the other day, and I'm a firm believer of daddy issues,
Yeah.
family issues,
Yeah.
all of that, wanting to be
Yeah.
accepted. Like you said, I'm the only child too, so I grew up with a single mother. My mama was single, my grandmama
Yeah.
was single,
Yep.
and it's one of them like, well, damn, I don't want to be single.
Exactly.
You know,
So
kinda
you,
thing.
Yeah.
So
you
let me-
try to not
yeah,
be
let
single.
me
Let me
accept it.
try.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
And it's just one of them like, and you accept it for so long, but then also I charge it to being young and dumb.
I was about to say
It's
maturity.
true.
You
Exactly.
learn
You know
with
what I'm
maturity.
saying?
Absolutely. But so do you feel like you took time and steps to navigate through those younger childhood moments, childhood traumas, like, if you will, you know what I mean? Not necessarily having the right type of like example or, you know, references of a healthy relationship and what that looks like and what to strive for. Like, have you dealt with those particular things?
That's the crazy part because I don't think so.
Okay.
I really don't think so. And my biggest concern is whenever I do get in another relationship,
Yeah.
that small thing, like you said before, like you said you was working like,
Not right. Because
are you really
So- and
working
that's
like
my
Is this
thing.
happening?
yeah,
That's
or is
my
this
thing.
a repeat of what I'm used to,
Right.
and familiar, and I already don't
Exactly.
feel good. Right.
I see at this me specifically, like at this point, I'm trying to not invest in potential. Like you have to have credentials at this point. Like everything that I'm looking for, you can't then go. First of all, when I'm talking to somebody, I'm trying to get to know them. I try not to tell them exactly what I want,
Right.
because you have to be that person. And I feel like there's some people that are making adjustments.
Most people.
Yeah, that to just be, they be like, oh,
Representative.
I really want this person, representative, exactly. I really want this person, and I know what they want, so I make adjustments in these areas to show them that this is who I am, and I hate that. I need to know who you are. If we work out, we work out. If we don't
And
work
if we
out,
don't, right,
yeah,
we
and
can
I need to
still be
move
cool.
on.
Right.
So, and that's I no credentials. I mean, no potential, all credentials. If you don't have it, you don't have it. It's not for me.
Right.
it's a real life a job
That
interview
is-
because you know you really put on that front for that job
I mean,
interview.
we do. We definitely, it is lights, camera, action, and let's go ahead and,
Yeah,
you
let's
know,
go.
the first take. But
I think it's equally as important though to know your deal breakers and know
Of course.
what triggers you, even if you haven't done the work. So even
Right.
if you haven't done the work from 10 years ago, however long the relationship has been, not going and seeking therapy and not going and doing all the things that people think you should do. To me, I feel like nobody knows you better than yourself. So it doesn't matter what any therapist, what a friend, what a relative, or anybody says. If you know that there's something in you that triggers you no matter what, it doesn't matter what somebody says, whether that's cheating, whether that's whatever. If that's something that you know is a trigger for you, I think it's absolutely important for you to identify that and stick to that, but also recognize that it may or may not be the case. And you have to really convince yourself, like, okay, just because I'm triggered by, okay, you're late to work. from work. Okay, you were doing what?
But
You were where?
again, if you're
But
not-
also being fair or figuring out what ways to navigate that to where you don't even have that thought, which
Yeah.
is
Right.
your location on. Okay, I see you at Applebee's. Okay, let me mind my business. But I
Right.
think that if somebody loves you, they do that naturally until you get to the point of
This
I'm
is true.
comfortable.
This is
I'm
true. That's-
comfortable, and now
is fair.
I know it's a thing for you. So let me do what I need to
Right.
do to make sure that it doesn't even cross your mind. If you want to call me anytime you want to, if
Right.
I'm late, I'm calling you. Do you want to FaceTime? You want me to sit on
Right.
the like whatever it takes
I
to.
thought I was the only person that thought like that.
But no, but
I ain't
here's,
gonna lie to you.
so the thing is, that's funny, like, because automatically, in my most recent, which happens to be my most maturest relationship as well in my adult journey, I automatically turned down my location. And to me, it was more so of, yes, it was at the later part of, like, the intent was, I want you to know, like, you can know exactly where I am.
I have a question before
Nah.
you dig into it. So you turned it on randomly, or is it any conversation that happened to where you're like, you know what,
No.
I don't want you to have any questions about it. And it's just a
No,
thought.
it was just a thing to where it's like, when things really, like, I'm like, all right, I'm in this. Like,
when you got to the point where you're like, oh, we're in this
I'm
for real.
in
right.
me.
Right,
Like,
you.
I was just like, oh, I'm in this, and I want to demonstrate that I don't have any distractions.
Right.
And no matter where I am,
Pull
you
up.
will be able to understand that. So you can confirm, like, there's just, I don't care what time it is, like, random, like this, before we moved in together, like, all of that, you understand that I am accessible, one, and there's never going to be a mishap or a misstep regarding somebody else.
On your end.
But on my end, right? But for me, it was also, it was a sense of security. So if something was to happen, I felt safe with this person that I
Right.
knew that I would be taken
Right.
care of, and they will
Immediately.
come
I
to
haven't
my
heard
rescue.
from you in a day.
Exactly.
You haven't moved
That
in a
was
day.
the
Right.
initial, right? But on the flip side, that was the case. But I get what you're saying, that because that's you being in a relationship, maybe prior to dealing with those things, and those particular acts would help your comfort level to ease your mind
Right.
that, okay, well, at least I have this feature on and I can tell where they are. But again, it's not really dealing with it. That is allowing us to still stay in that space and operate in that same
Randomly checking,
mentality.
like, let me
I
see
agree
what
too.
it
Right,
is.
right. So and
Yeah.
that,
But see-
so can you really say that, speaking of mentality, like your mental health, can you really say that that's healthy still? Because you're just finding ways to work around that same
same
existence.
insecurity, yeah.
And it
See,
should,
I
that's
don't
something
think
you,
so. I don't think so. I think that I agree with you, but
Yeah.
I think that in those little things, one, I process it as, okay, you are doing something to make sure I'm good. And to me, that's a big step. So I'm overcoming that whole thing where I feel like I'm in something, but I'm also not in it because I don't know if you're gonna mess up yet. So taking these little steps, like your location is turned on, that doesn't mean I'm gonna get on my phone and look at it every 30 minutes. That means if something happens or I'm worried about you or some scheduling conflict, something changes or shifts, I know that I have the security in, and it doesn't have to be, are you cheating? It can be, are you okay?
Right.
It could be, but to me, I feel like those little things help you take the steps to get to a healthy place where it's like, okay, I can stop questioning this. I can stop trying to figure out if you're doing something wrong because you're literally doing everything right to make sure that I'm good. And to someone who's automatically all in, I love you, you love me.
Right.
What do you need? You need my location, you need this. Someone to do that organically on their own to make sure I'm good goes way further
That
than
says a lot.
yes,
Yeah, no,
versus
absolutely.
babe, can you turn on your
Can you-
location?
can you do
Can
this
you
for-
do this?
yeah.
But
And
I'm
to
saying,
me,
if you
yeah.
were doing it from that place, you're needing somebody else to help you feel good about something, and that's not. That's
It's not.
But
it's not
see-
feel good though. The thing is, sometimes when you enter a relationship, when you're having a conversation with somebody about who they are to detect if you want to be with them, you know that there's good things that you're gonna like, and then there's
Right.
things that
Yeah.
you're gonna have to work on.
Right.
So you making a decision to jump in a relationship, you're accepting the bad things
Yes.
also.
Of
So you
course.
can't then go, I'm gonna accept the good things, and we're not gonna work on the bad things together.
No. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that whatsoever.
Right.
I'm simply highlighting the fact that you want to deal with your own insecurities, period, no matter
Yeah,
what.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
not
true. Right.
solely relying on somebody
agree.
else to
Yeah,
do
me
I
too.
agree.
Me too.
perform a step or an act in order to validate your insecurity.
I agree.
I
Because
agree.
that's not going to fix it. It's only going to show up in, you know what I mean, a worse
different
way.
in a different way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I'm
I
not
agree.
saying that to say that
Yeah.
you don't also need to do the work. I just think that it is when you see consideration,
Of course.
that it makes it easier for you to look inside yourself and say, you know what, there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
One, they're doing all the great things to make sure that my mental is good, and I
Right.
mean, whatever it takes.
I get that. I get that.
Let me start working on. Also, as a matter of fact, when you come home, let's go ahead and have a talk about what my real issue is and what I know you're showing up for me in this way that I want you to. But also, I want to acknowledge that this is an issue for me. It's not something I expect you to necessarily have to deal with and make an extra effort for. I appreciate you for doing it, but also, while you're doing these things, I know that I need to do this. So if you catch me slipping up, I need you to let me know, hey, Justin, we just had this
Correct. Just
conversation.
There you go.
Yeah.
True, because I feel like personally, some things
Hold on,
you
hold on,
can't
hold
work. Sometimes you cannot. Like, well, I guess what I'm trying to say, like, you have to work on those things in a relationship.
Yes.
So going back to what you were saying before, like therapy, things like that, you can go to therapy, all of that. But for me, I feel like that is definitely going to have to be something I'm gonna like, listen, last relationship. work
Yes,
with me.
transparency.
You're unpacking.
Transparency.
You're
Yeah.
unpacking. Like,
Yeah.
You're getting to know each other, and that comes with you telling your story.
Yeah.
So they're gonna uncover that was a thing for you at one point,
Right.
and I totally
Yeah.
get that.
And you can't heavily rely on me. This is
Yeah,
something
it
that
can't
Right.
be your journey. It's not your journey
Exactly.
because you chose to deal with me. It's
Right.
my journey, and I appreciate you
It-
working with me because you want me.
consideration
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because
you,
it's like you're healing. There's no deadline. There's
Yeah,
no
there's not.
expiration date. There's no final stage. If you dealt with some type of trauma or pain or whatever it may be, that's a forever effort. That's
Yep.
a forever incorporation to your day to day of making sure that you maintain that. Right. So I get that. Regardless of what stage you're in that journey, you're gonna meet somebody, and it's still a part of you. You know what I mean? But it may not define you.
Right.
You know, because that sometimes we operate
We
from
allow it
those
to do-
places.
yeah.
And sometimes now we've learned how to navigate from
Right.
those spaces, and we're different, but it was something that was along the way. And here is evidence that I'm no longer in that phase.
Right. Right.
So you don't have to have your location on, but I'm completely still content and secure. That's not even a thought in my mind until something presents itself
Right.
to make me feel that
Right.
way.
Exactly.
I think that was it, because I definitely came from, oh, go ahead.
No,
were
you're
about to
good.
say
Go ahead.
something. I
No.
was going to say, I came from relationships to where it's like the whole infidelity to cheating and things like that or whatever took place. And you would think that, from what you dealt with, like, you would be scarred. Like, girl, I couldn't even think about being in a relationship anymore. But going into this most recent one, like, when I say I didn't even have a thought
Right.
at all about the potential of somebody else.
But that's what I mean. The
know
fact
what I
that you
mean?
did that and didn't have a thought, that kind of thing registers to someone who has a trigger. Like the fact that you didn't even have a thought but to turn on your location in. To me, that never leaves my mind. That you did that organically. I didn't have to
Yeah.
communicate it to
Yeah.
you. You heard me when I let you know it was an issue or a challenge for me. So
And
to
you
me,
did
that
that?
goes so much further.
without me asking.
What's that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the best
Now
part.
I'm gonna try harder. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do like this. Like I spoke.
Yeah.
And she adjusted.
And exactly.
I didn't ask for her to adjust.
Yeah.
I spoke and she adjusted, and so I'm going to do my hardest to make sure that this trauma that I have is fixed.
Absolutely.
Or I'm doing
Right.
whatever I need to do to heal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because she's really, she's
Yeah, it
really
forces you to
trying.
be better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Question 2.
So I have a question.
I was about to get a question too. Let me
Yeah.
get this flow. I'm the flow king. If y'all didn't know, I'm the one to get the flow. Okay.
So these mental aspects that has happened in these relationships, these romantic relationships that y'all have,
Yeah.
right? The mental issues that have came with them. Do you see yourself? Has it transitioned into other relationships in your life, like the platonic ones?
My temper. That's something that I think just existed, period. And it showed up more aggressive in certain relationships. So I think maybe it could have shown up, let's just say maybe dealing with like family, for example, opposed to being as aggressive in my relationship,
Right.
because your relationship is a little different, right? Like you can be a little aggressive with your siblings
Right.
versus like
a
not meeting it so
relationship,
much with
right.
your person. So I just recognized that was just something I needed to deal with, period. And I can even say that in a professional world too. I started like corporate jobs at a very, very young age.
Right.
So I didn't have the experience to learn how to deal with certain things or speak in certain ways and so on and so forth. And you didn't get that experience until you had your experience and you learned your lesson. So I think
Right.
that over the years I was able to really deal with it. And I definitely know that as of late, I've really did the work to make sure that I respond. First of all, before responding, I pause. You know what I mean? I
Pause
think
is
that
a part.
was,
That pause, boy,
is,
I always say,
that
let me
is-
choose my words.
Right.
Like I
Right.
always say that.
Because
Not me.
without that pause, that was like a thing for me. Like it, and I see the difference even with how I process on my own. Forget the other person who's on the opposite side of like the conversation. It's for me the stress level that doesn't really go that high because, all right, cool.
That pause be like 3 seconds, but it be legit like 3 months of thoughts.
Yes.
Exactly.
Man.
Rapidly going through your head. Like, you know what,
But
let me
it
just not do that.
prevents so much. And I can, again, recognize where if I actually paused, speaking of the relationship, if I paused there, this probably would have been, there would have been a different outcome in that situation. The impact that it makes to the other person is so significant.
Right.
And I think for me, that is more so what I'm focusing on now. And so that's where it creates that element of being able to pause. But that comes through like straight up prayer and like, Lord, please
Yeah.
go
Right.
before me because
Please be with me.
like, no, I need you.
myself
Because I don't want to, whatever. So, but yeah, so that's
I think
it.
for me, it would be patience in the opposite way,
That's what I was gonna say.
but in the opposite way that y'all thinking. Like sometimes I have too much of it. And I think even with my last relationship, like I think that's one of the things I realized that I had and I practiced, and I decided to like moving into like different relationships, especially like, well, not especially, but like work or family. I decided to have less of it, but also working on my reaction skills because I get angry also.
Yeah.
So I
Quick to anger, y'all
Boy,
angry over here. At least me
boy.
and Kiki are calm.
Yeah, I'm the queen of being like, okay, that's probably my most toxic trait. Like, I'm not gonna let you. And I'm gonna say, Rosie, like me and Rosie got into it one time.
once though.
One time.
That's pretty good.
Is it
though.
toxic? I was about to say.
I was gonna say, would you really have to categorize it as being toxic?
Yeah, I don't think it's
Or
toxic.
some people may
Well, us,
receive
it
it to
was once.
may
Yeah.
receive it as like you don't care and you're not
Yeah.
demonstrating.
That's
what
the
it
toxic-
is. And
okay.
but
Right.
the thing is, if I don't do that, I'm gonna go to 100, and I choose to be like, okay.
no
even
Okay,
even my niece
Yeah.
will be like, we'll be texting back and forth. She'll say something, and I'll be texting a whole bunch, and I'll just say okay,
Delete.
and she'll be like, oh, I like how you just said okay. You was texting a whole bunch of
You was
stuff.
back.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm just gonna say okay
saying
because. What I don't want to do is number one, I don't want to take you out your norm
Right.
because we can go there,
Right.
but I don't want to go there with you. So I'm just
Right.
gonna say okay.
Again,
There
it's
you
the
go.
impact.
But
yeah.
that is such a great quality. Like I don't see
It
it as
could be-
toxic.
it
It
could be.
can
It's
be,
how
but I
you-
also,
that- I
but I
would
think
say-
being able to
Don't okay
I-
everything.
It's
but I-
how
And
you,
I'm-
yeah.
see,
it's
and I'm
how you
okay
okay.
everything.
Yeah,
It's
but I
how you
also feel like
okay.
being able to identify that you can go there and stop yourself is major. Because for me, I'm hot and cold. Depends on when you catch me.
Yeah.
I don't always take that pause that we
Yeah.
need,
Oh, you
and I'll fly off the
Which
handle
is-
like,
which is fair.
and we go. So to me, I think I
give
see
him
that
a
as a
pause,
huge
right.
positive because I will absolutely. What's up?
What you said,
And
lose your
that's
job
what's
and
right,
everything.
what's
Right.
good.
But like I said, you
Yeah.
said okay, and that's cool. But I think maybe just incorporating ways of how to communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that in order for you not to, you don't want it to be perceived in that particular way of like, I really just don't care. Like, you know,
I mean, it could go either way. That's it's either okay or OKAY.
Aight.
Like,
Right.
Okay,
like,
aight.
okay,
And
Like,
I-
it's a difference.
yeah, but still, and
the
those,
AY is like I care a little bit. That,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you take the A and the Y off, it's just okay.
Yeah.
It's like
I know. Right. That's what we. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
This okay is I
But
know.
again, is that your intent to give that
Yeah.
type of, you know what I'm saying? Like, if do you want that person to take it in that way, and if you technically you want them to do so, then cool, okay.
well, see, I always
But-
tell people I'm the most unproblematic person that you will ever meet. Like, I don't really go left, and I feel like you could agree with that. Like, I don't really do all the extras. I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna do all that. So if we go there, it has to be something that has really went
this
there.
is a true thing.
Right.
Like you did something.
you
If Kiki
or you
is
pushed
here,
me.
That's what I'm saying. The
you
one
did
time,
something.
and I
You
think
did
me and
something.
Rosie after that, it was just like,
Yeah, I did something.
We ain't never coming back here. Learned your lesson.
I want to know what you
We're
did.
gonna talk about that
But, yeah.
offline. We gotta talk about that offline.
Right, yeah.
I got
Okay,
you,
go
I
ahead.
got
What's the patience thing? So for me, patience, it
Yeah.
was too much of it. Like I gave too much patience.
You had too much patience,
I-
like too much grace, or too much.
My toxic trait, my mental issue, bottle up everything. I'm gonna give you so much because
Yeah.
I understand. That's
Right.
my thing. I come from here, so I understand the work that has to go through to get to here.
Right.
So I understand the work that you have to go through. So I'm gonna have all the patience in the world.
Right.
But even if you're trying me, like patience, even if you're like, the goal that you want to get to, it takes 10 steps, and you decided to do 7. Patience, like it, and it becomes too much for myself when I get the bottling up
Bottling everything up, right?
To explode.
I always explode every single time.
You do every
So,
time.
single
yeah,
time.
not
Every time I
processing
explode.
is
Not processing.
that was one of the things for me. It was holding my tongue, and because sometimes you don't know how to have the conversation. Sometimes you don't know how to bring up certain things because there's a fear. I've had that same fear too, and it's just like, you know, I don't want this person to maybe leave or be angered or something like
Right.
that or whatever. So I'm going to refrain because I don't want it to ultimately get to that point. But you don't need to be, you should be able to express yourself. And then that's another lesson for
Freely.
me. Be able to
Freely.
express
Yep.
yourself freely, but you also have to know how to do that.
Yep.
So not just saying whatever you want to say, that's not going to necessarily get the point across or, you know, get to the bottom of it. But it's just a way you communicate. So I definitely realized that addressing things in the moment or when it happens, it's helpful, but it's also times to where you may have to pause for a second, let some things die down, and then revisit. You're not you're not ignoring it and letting it build up, but you're just saying maybe not right now because it's too thick. It's too, the heat of the moment is too intense. Maybe we don't need to talk about this at this moment. Maybe you go your way, I go my way.
I'm still
for a
working on
second.
that.
Yeah, no, but that
I just-
definitely takes, because to me sometimes it's like, no, I want my feelings validated. Like
Right.
I want you to hear live right now how your actions or your words impacted me.
For me, is I don't care how
Relax.
you feel about how I feel. I just want a
Yeah.
solution.
Yep.
That's my thing. My thing is
But you can't get to a solution until you actually understand how.
how they need to understand how I feel. Is what you're saying.
No. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying.
I
Like,
also
I'm
say
saying
like
Y'all both like,
no,
nah.
no.
Both of them like, nah.
no, I'm saying I don't care about
How
like,
you-
if we have an issue.
Yeah, I don't care how you feel about how I feel. Right.
yeah.
I
Or-
feel like this. And
You can tell me how you feel, and I'd be like, okay, cool.
Right.
You don't need to know how I feel. We just need a solution.
Right.
Right. So I don't need to get my point across. I need to hear your point.
Yep.
Okay. My thing is, I always feel like I can make adjustments. And this is probably a toxic trait.
I was
also.
about to say.
I-
I'm
I
glad
wait,
you
I'm
caught
just
it.
sitting here listening.
That's what I
It
was-
probably is.
Sounds good.
I can make adjustments based off of what you want or what you need, because I can legit, like, there's nothing that you're going to do that's gonna like really rattle me unless it's like not checking off the like this is also one of the reasons why I don't tell people what I want, but not working towards the things that I've already told you that I need in this relationship.
Right.
If you already have those things, then I'm already think that whatever issue that you're having is based off of something that I need to make adjustments to, or it's something that we can solve without me telling you how I feel.
Right.
Because you already check my boxes off. So you can just tell me how you feel. I'll make the adjustment. I'll go ahead and make the adjustment. I'm fine with making the adjustment. I don't need you to make any adjustments. And we can just create the solution and move forward.
But I feel like that's also expecting someone to interact with you in a way that you interact, because in that, not every, like to Nina's point,
Mhm.
and maybe just to make sure I'm gathering what you said, she
Right.
wants to be heard. She recognizes whether I need to be heard right now or whether I need to be heard later. It's not about a solution in this moment because I feel how I feel about it, and I need you to recognize that this is how I feel about it, whether I tell you right now or I tell
Right.
you next week when we're good. I want you to recognize that this is how I feel. Now, where we go from here is a completely separate thing than you recognizing
Yeah.
Right.
how I
Yeah,
feel in this
see.
moment. And in interacting with someone or a relationship or whatever it is, recognizing that some people are so used to not being heard that I could care less about what the solution is.
Right.
This is how I feel about it. Yeah, we're gonna work on the solution because
Yeah.
we're together and that's what we're building up. But you need to understand how I feel.
Yeah.
And I know that you may be solution oriented, which is great for us being productive and progressive, but ultimately we could come up with a solution immediately in the moment.
And
You didn't hear how I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't
That's
know
fine.
how it
Right.
affects me or how I
That's
feel
right.
about it.
So-
So
Being in therapy, you can literally say the same thing Like, I could tell you, like, oh, this is how I felt, or I was saying this, or I was trying to get this point across. And you hear it one way from me because we're in the relationship together and you view me in this way or whatever. But the therapist could say it. And you're like, oh, well, you know what? I actually get your,
That's
I
not
get,
what- right.
that's what you meant. That's
Yeah.
what you were needing from me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, that was pointed out. Like, I heard somebody put that scenario out there. I'm like, that is so true.
Right.
That is very much true. And one of the great qualities that I like, because that's one thing I will always praise my last relationship, the person I was with, based upon their great qualities.
She
Like
love
they,
that man.
I do.
She love that
So, like the fact that therapy was incorporated, like well before we really were deep into our relationship, it was something that he proposed the idea of, you know, it may be certain things that you could be uncomfortable with asking or me.
Right.
And to like that, getting to know each other and unpacking those deep layers. Let's create a safe space and the right type of setting. Let's go ahead and before the problems start. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be, oh, there's a problem, now we need therapy. Let's go ahead and learn the communication styles. Let's go ahead and
Right.
learn setting those deal breakers or whatever the case may be, like understanding how to really go about this to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success to being in a healthy relationships. Because
And I'm toxic, clearly, because if y'all didn't know,
nah, but
I feel like my mental issue, I'll say, is shutting down.
yeah,
And that translates to family, to friends, to whatever. And I think it's because when you try to be understood, but you also take the time to understand people, any small thing is massive to you. When you try to be considerate and you want to be open and you give people room to be themselves, even if it kind of, you know, takes some space from you. But for me, shutting down was healthy in a relationship because I know how far I can go. Like, and I don't want to take it there because you get to a point to where you can't recover from it. And now what do we do? Right. Also, now that, you know, we're at a point where do we move forward? Do we not? Because now I feel like you backed me in the corner and I did what I had to do. And now, you know, you're in this space. So for me, in some moments, it was absolutely just a mechanism that you just automatically do. I'd fall into it because I know where my mouth can go. I know where my attitude is. I know how long it takes me to recover from something that once I feel any kind of hurt, once you get me there, I either shut down or I attack.
So when you say shut down, are you saying like, okay, or is it like we might not be talking for a little while and
It's both. So I
my
feel like
mood is
depending on what
changing?
happened, yeah. So my mood absolutely talking to, but my mood absolutely will shift and it's evident. And I feel like, I mean, Nita's been my friend for a long time, but you can absolutely recognize when I'm to the point to where this ain't the moment.
But can
This ain't the
I
time.
also say I feel like that's peeking and poking at the same thing that we're talking about. You are saying that I know I can go this far.
Right.
I'm shutting down, but why aren't you dealing with the fact that what is bringing you to why are you going that far? Why are you taking it there?
Well, that's-
because of those things. What's the trigger? Identifying what's triggering you.
Also, is it like, is it you? Like, is it, well, it is you if it's consistent.
Right.
Right.
Because you're not telling the person what you and the person are and addressing why you keep going there.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Right.
So even if it is addressed, for me, the reason why I brought it up as a mental issue is whether a person knows or not, my reaction is consistent. But also, if you know and you get me to this point, to me, it's 10 times worse than if I never
no.
communicated to you. If I never communicated it to you and you get me there, I feel like I actually do pull back a little bit. I actually do. I'm like, okay, well, I can't even be that mad at you because you don't even know. But if I've let you in and you know, and you reckon, or you know me long enough to know that this is something that will take me there and you still choose to get me there and get me out of my element, to me, I automatically process that as a challenge. Again, not to say it's healthy, but it's something that I've recognized that is not even just in a relationship. Once you get, family, who knows you better than your family? My family knows me very well.
Yeah.
Work
They have
too.
the work on me well too.
Yeah.
You get me to that point, and you already know. But my whole entire everything is like, all right, just
I
Y'all
feel like
know?
that's fair
So
though.
what about? I mean, do people really take us there, or are we taking ourselves to Are we giving another person that much power over how we respond and react to things?
I
I'm
feel
at
like
the
that's
point.
human
I'm
nature.
at the point now. Unless it's work, because work is the only thing where it's like even if you have this conversation with someone so many times, you at least have to be patient until another opportunity presents itself for you to leave. It's not something that you can just quickly walk out of.
Yeah.
Right.
But everything else where I can just like, I'm gone, I am legit gone. Like I'm not having especially if I told you over and over again. And
Yeah, if you're having the conversation about something and
Right.
you've already identified certain things, and then a person continues to behave in a way
Right.
Right.
that presents the same outcome, that's a different story.
Right.
But if it's something that happens,
for the
and
first time, if it's an issue, then no.
Yeah.
I'm patient then.
Yeah.
But like I was saying before, in my past relationships, my issue was patience. Like I'm too patient. But
Yeah.
now,
you're it's
if we've had the conversation,
But is that
Yeah.
relationship, family, and friendship, or
That's
is that
everything.
everybody? Okay.
that's everything. For work, I'm just gonna say okay, because once again that's something that's like I have to be patient until I'm able to transition. But with
Yeah.
everything else, I'm not just gonna say okay. I'm gonna be like, we talked about this
Right.
yeah,
a few times already, and
Yeah.
I can see that there's no change.
yeah.
So I'm out.
Right.
See, I feel like with family, with certain members of my family, I'm going to do that with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to change anything, but I'm going to say, XYZ, we've talked about this 20 times.
Yeah.
But I need you to understand, like, it's getting to a point where I'm just not going to say anything to you
At all.
At all.
Right.
Yeah.
We still going to move on with our lives and we're going to do it. But understand,
We
Yeah.
can still be family,
I've
but
definitely done.
the
I
relationship.
totally realize where if a person is showing me that this is how they are and they're not willing to accept it or make a change, and I know that this is how I can be, then I can't be mad at them for being who they've shown themselves to be. I
Consistently,
have
right.
to then make the adjustment on my part, but it is still a matter of us controlling how we respond to things. To me, this is my own personal, I've learned that other people can't make you do something. They can't make you respond. They can't make you do whatever. They can influence a feeling or a certain like a way that you view it or whatever, or how like if you call me out my name, it's gonna make me feel some kind of way, right?
Yeah.
But my decision
choice,
to
right.
determine how I'm going to
React.
process that and then react, and I get there's certain things that are disrespectful and sometimes it's like defensive. You have to stand up for yourself and so on and so forth. I get it. But in most relationships or whatever, I just feel like when you're shutting down or just not addressing it, like I'm shutting down, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to just whatever, that like, are we really dealing with, or just like why do you, I just want to know like, why do you shut down? Like, I want to know like when you like shutting down, is that that's how you go to your own safety?
Yeah,
is
so
that-
for me, it varies. So sometimes it's I'm shutting down because we need to end this moment. Now, if you want to revisit tomorrow or next week, that might be wise.
But are you
But
communicating
also,
that?
absolutely.
Okay.
But sometimes it's like when your mama when you know you're in trouble and your mama give you that look. That's kind of how it shows up for me. Like, and I do it at work. Again, it translates
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah.
But for me, it's fared well for me. Some situations it has kept us from completely and totally being done because you triggered me. It was a trigger that you knew. You still did it. So are you baiting me to react in a way that you don't that I don't want to react in or that you want me to react in? But also give me a moment. Because
Yeah.
if I say what I really want to say, we won't ever talk again. Or if I say what I really want to say, you're gonna have something to say, and that is, you know what I mean. You can't recover from it.
I appreciate having the moments and taking the
Yeah.
time. I appreciate that, but it's the fact when you go on without addressing the pause that you took.
Yes,
That's
I agree
not,
with you.
That
I
to
agree
me,
with you.
that's the thing that
But I'm
is-
confrontational, so it's gonna come back. You know, it's gonna. I
See,
mean, it's
I'm with the shits,
I
okay?
always. But my thing is, it. Sometimes it takes you shutting down,
Yeah.
giving it some time, then y'all have a good moment, and then you circle back and say, you know what, let's talk about,
Yeah.
And to me, that has worked a lot better for me because
Yeah.
the unhealthy, toxic side of me is really like I couldn't give it whether we talk again, and that is my immediate reaction Because again, I'm in my mental at this point in life, I'm fine being alone. So the fact that I will deal with someone who still wants to change that, if you know that you want to change this and I've communicated to you that I'm fine being alone, if you trigger me, to me that's you're being intentional about us not being together, which is you get what you get.
So you just basically you just want someone to accept you for who you are in all aspects. There's no part of you that you're willing to adjust.
That's not true. I don't agree. I feel like
I'm
with
asking.
every person, yeah.
I'm
So I feel
asking.
like with every person, there's some things that you should not and necessarily cannot change about yourself.
Right.
You can adjust, which is a great word, make it an adjustment. But realistically, who you are to your core is not that.
Right.
And for me, when you are in relationships, I personally feel that those minor adjustments are fine to a point. So if you're making 10 adjustments because Nina is a talker and she wants to talk about it in the moment, that's great. I'm dealing with you. We had this conversation. I understand that about you. I respect it. I am the opposite. We get into a fight and argument. Nina, get out my face. Okay? You know that it's not going to go well. You know, whether it be an anger issue, whether it just be like I can't form my words in that moment because some people get flustered. And for me, I don't ever really get flustered in those moments. To me, it's automatically defense mode, and you shouldn't go to that mode with someone that you care about, love, trying to build a relationship, whatever it is. So it's finding that balance in knowing, okay, so this is what you want to do. And in the back of my head, okay, we had an argument. Nina about to be sitting here. Nina want to talk about it right now.
But can I also say that, okay.
And that's just an example. Is Nina want to talk about it right now, and I'm pissed off, and I don't want to talk about it right now. But where do we decide this makes sense?
But here's the thing. To my thing is like, if that's always how you want things to be, or the other person like, I don't want to talk about this right now, but I do. So are you not going to help me with what I want?
That's what I'm saying. That's the
That
part.
sounds like that's not the partner for you, to be honest.
Agreed. So that's what I'm saying.
Because it sounds if you recognize, if you get to a point where it's like I'm consistently making these adjustments, and you know for a fact that when I get to a certain point that I'm not going to continue making these adjustments, and the other person is like, but this is who I am, and I want to continue being this person, then it gets to a point where it's like,
yeah, I see that,
I
but
think
my
it's
thing is
situational.
the point that I'm trying to make is the simple fact that I feel like there are certain times to where you do need to have the conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to continue to be prolonged. It doesn't need to be pushed off or held. It doesn't. Sometimes you have to be mature enough. Yes, you can have a way of being like confrontational, or I can go to 0 to 100. I think we all have those elements a part of us, but sometimes you do have to
right.
if you care about the other person, okay. So maybe it's you getting it off your chest. And then in that moment, the other person, I heard you. I respect your position on this. I'm going to take some time to, process it. And then I'm going to come back to you with my side of it. And then at that point, maybe the conversation, it'll further on or whatever it may be. But I just feel as if like to completely dismiss the fact that or run away from something, that's not okay. It doesn't need to go one way all
I
the
agree.
time. I
Yes,
definitely
I
feel
agree.
like sometimes, and that's a part of the
That's how
compromise.
people get lost. Yeah, people
it's
get lost in that. They want their
'cause
way.
I was just about to say, it cannot always be how you want it to be.
I agree.
You have to step down from yourself a little bit or humble yourself to say, okay, yeah, I may not, but she does or he does. So because I care about this person, I'm going to put this to the side
Yep.
and I'm going to go, you know what I'm saying? It's just about being
But I think
mature.
that-
Are we currently transitioning out our last situation? I really want to know that. Are we still coping with the last situation? I want to know why. Right. This is a big question. And then also, is self-care a part of transitioning out of that last situation?
For me, still transitioning, absolutely. I don't feel like self-care is really a part for me. It's not something and maybe it's because I haven't done it. Maybe I don't feel like I require it. But
You've been doing it before, is what you're saying?
no. So it's
okay.
not something I felt like I'm not missing it. I don't feel like I'm missing it because I don't really
Self-care?
do. Yeah, like I don't think I do anything specifically as like yoga or going and editing or writing or going and getting your toes and nails done.
Self-care
Or
could be
yeah, but for
haircut,
me,
or you know what I mean.
but I
Or-
do that as a that's just a habit. That's something I know I need to do for
Right.
like work.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily attribute that to a situation
Transitioning
specifically,
out.
because whether I was in a relationship or not is something I would do.
Yeah.
So, additionally, the difficult part of letting it go is comparison.
Absolutely.
Everyone
mean?
that you date or interact with or meet, if you don't have that same feeling or you don't get those butterflies or you don't feel like it's organic, I compare every person I meet to that
Yeah.
wonderful feeling
Yeah.
that I had in this situation. And whether it's subconscious, whether it's completely and totally obvious, whether it just be how you communicate with me, whether it be how I feel when I show up in the room and how you react and if you're excited or not, that for me was such a like a jarring thing. Like it's literally printed in my head.
So do you feel like you're, because of what you just said, do you
Mhm.
feel like you're always transitioning out until you meet somebody else?
Absolutely. And
Mm.
absolutely. And I feel like it's hard to admit to, as we're all human. So I think it's hard to really admit to, but also realistically, what else are you comparing what you have going on to? And I think you can get to a point to where you're completely done with a situation or a person. Like you don't necessarily desire to have them,
Mm.
but if you were in it the way that you should have been, or maybe have actually cared and loved and given yourself, I feel like even a new situation after you've completely healed, done, you have your self-care, you have whatever else going on, when you meet a new person, if you were authentic in that past situation, I think you absolutely will compare things in this new situation to what you felt, or if especially if you feel like it was the one or anything like that. If you felt like it was a situation to where they loved you, they cared for you, wanted to provide, wanted to meet you in the middle, wanted to grow, whether it be having kids, getting married, do all of the things. When you meet someone new, I feel like subconsciously there's always some sort of mental break where it's like, nah, this just does not feel as good as it did. And that's not to say you won't move forward. That doesn't mean that you won't completely entertain a situation. But I think for me, I always compare it because I don't feel like you meet that many people that really get you to that point
To
to where
that
you're like,
point.
damn.
See, I feel like that's super important, like to even say out loud, because
Mm.
I'm one of the people that, like, I feel like there's a moment. Now, granted, I've only been in two relationships,
Mhm.
right? So I don't have that much experience in transitioning. But I've felt like there's a point that you can come to where you're completely cleared of the last relationship, and you're
Yes.
satisfied, like you transition out, the coping is done, you're healed, and you haven't transitioned into something else.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
That does happen. For
Yeah, it
sure.
does.
I've
So that is a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I've
That's a
definitely-
thing.
Okay.
That's how I started my last relationship. I was completely like
Over
detached
the last one.
from everything from before. Like there was no inkling of any desire.
No remnants of anything.
like these people just don't exist, right?
Okay.
So that definitely was the case. And then to me, I feel like I was grateful for that, because there was no other form that interfered with me being able to get to know this person and who they are and what I loved about them, and not having to like say, oh. And then at the same time, in all fairness, like I wouldn't want to compare my previous
Right.
relationships to anything. Like I don't want anything that I've experienced from them. You know what I mean? Because those weren't influential
And
in
they
the
didn't
best
work.
way,
Yeah, they
right?
didn't work,
No,
so-
well, not the fact that they didn't work, that too, but why they didn't work. Those relationships weren't feeding me. They were completely like, it was detrimental. You know what I mean? And it just wasn't conducive, right? Youth. We'll say that. But at the same time, I didn't have anything, right? Regardless if it was good or bad, I didn't have anybody and so he wasn't being compared to. And I honestly feel to this day, like, he stands in a category on its own. I am still transitioning from that relationship. I have not completely moved myself away from those feelings, what we had. And it was like, had a little family. You know what I'm saying? Because it is something. It wasn't my choice to separate. So that's I
Which
think
is an
that
important
plays
note.
that
It
plays
plays a huge
that was
part.
another thing I was gonna say. Like, you know, was it your
Yep.
choice to walk away or not? It wasn't my choice. So I think that sometimes that may prolong the process a little bit, because you still had that desire and want to, you know, move forward. But you have to respect people where they are and what they communicate and what they feel like they need. And that's okay. You know, it may not feel okay.
Right.
Oh, it hurts, right? But at the same time, it's just like, you know, if you love a person, you want the best for them. You want them to be able to operate in the best form. So you got to allow them to do what they do.
Speak for yourself.
No,
I'm
I'm
just
just
kidding.
saying.
I'm just
I mean,
playing.
no, it's cool,
It's
and it took a lot. That wasn't it. That
takes a
wasn't
while to
how
get there, right.
I didn't say that at first.
It definitely
The-
takes
the-
a while to get there.
The same day, night, the next day, the next week, the next
'Cause what
couple
we
of
talking
months.
about?
I
Good
didn't
luck.
say that.
Good luck.
What's today? Today is the
That's
15th of July. I said that today. So my whole point is, you know, I'm still taking time. I'm still putting in work, and it definitely was a lot of elements of self-care that had a big play in me being as strong as I am right now to deal with my transition, because I was completely broken. You know, I mean, completely broken. This was the person that I, you know, desired to be with. You know, I always used to say, like, I've never seen my future so clear outside of this person. Like, this person, you know, you envision, like, okay,
Right,
I'm
I'ma
gonna get
have
married
this
one
and I'ma
day
have
or
this,
I have a
right.
family, but I literally was able to see everything with this person there. So he played a major part. Writing, journaling, praying, like how you said every day, like there is not a day that goes by that I am not in communication with God.
Can y'all
like,
pray for me?
And I absolutely all
Both
the
of
time.
you, please, always. Thank you.
Lord, right now, please.
It might be every other day.
Holy Spirit, come
I'm
into
so-
this room.
I'm so glad for y'all having the Lord in your life so
But
close to,
it's like
close to your heart.
it's like, you know,
All around heathen. You hear me?
Jesus,
All
hello.
around
Praise
heathen.
Him. That's what I'm talking about with the house of the Lord over here. Amen.
I'm done. He
Give
did that.
myself away. Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
good.
there's a lot of stuff that I had to do in order to help. And I think for me, it was just coming to the radical acceptance of a lot of things that I didn't come to from before. And coming to those understandings helped me to deal and unpack the things that I needed to and, like, you know, outline and stuff. So.
For me, I just wish it wasn't so damn radical.
Ooh.
Yeah, that right there holds so much. It's hard, yo. It is.
Y'all look like y'all need a praise break.
hard.
Yeah.
Can I get a repeat of the question for Kiki?
Well,
You
I mean,
did-
I
you heard
got
it all.
it. Yeah.
I forgot. I feel like it was a 3-part.
Well, no,
Are you
as
still
far as for me,
transitioning
I
from-
definitely feel like
yeah.
I've transitioned again 10 years.
Yeah.
I've had time, you know, as far as with that. I feel like I'm at the point of surviving it now.
Yes.
Like, and for me, my self-care, I'm just now at a point where I can start to really think about myself. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been a mother first. That's first and foremost. So even now she's grown, I don't have to immediately worry about her. So I'm like, damn, I can go get my nails done.
Right,
I
right.
can go get my hair done. I can travel without anybody, and I can
Right.
only take care of myself. So for me, that self-care is traveling. Like, I just got back from Fort Lauderdale. Like, I went somewhere every single month this year. So that's my self-care.
Right.
Even if I don't do nothing but stay laying in the hotel, I'm
That's
still
still-
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Even though we're
So-
gonna change that before 2024,
But I
she just said.
2024
Before
is my
20,
year.
That's
before
right. Get ready, y'all. Get
you're gonna be in it in 20 on New Year's.
Right.
Okay.